Close your eyes for just a second. I want you to imagine the sound of a heavy, creaking wooden hull. The air around you is thick, it's stifling, and suffocatingly hot. Just beneath the deck of a massive warship, men are pulling relentlessly on giant wooden oars. Their muscles are burning, and their entire lives are measured by nothing more than the rhythmic strike of a heavy drum. Well, welcome to this explainer. Today we're unraveling a deeply dark, grueling, and honestly wildly misunderstood chapter of maritime history, the life of the galley slave. We're gonna separate the cinematic myths from the actual historical realities, and then we're gonna step down into the shadows below deck to experience what this nightmare was truly like. Okay, let's dive into this. When you picture a galley slave, what actually comes to mind? If you're like most of us, you're probably picturing a massive ancient Roman warship, right? You see rows of desperate chained men, just glistening with sweat, being whipped by some ruthless Roman overseer. I mean, this specific image has been permanently burned into our collective consciousness by classic Hollywood epics like Ben-Hur. But is this famous imagery actually grounded in real history? Were the men powering the great fleets of the Roman Empire actually enslaved? Oh, the short answer is absolutely not. We have literally been sold a historical bait and switch. That classic Hollywood myth of the chained, whipped Roman slave, it's almost entirely a fabrication. And the historical reality completely shatters that assumption. The men pulling the oars on Roman galleys were actually, for the vast majority of Rome's history, paid citizens or freemen. They weren't sitting down there in iron chains. They were there by choice. They were earning a living and securing a future for themselves.
So you might be wondering, who exactly were these men? Well, think about the Roman legions. To be a soldier, you had to provide some of your own expensive armor and weapons, meaning you needed a little bit of wealth just to join up. But the Navy provided everything. And because there were zero equipment costs, this became a highly respectable, sought-after military career path for Rome's poorest citizens. Now, don't get me wrong, the work was brutal. It was incredibly cramped, it was blazing hot, and deafeningly noisy. But it was paid labor. And even better, non-citizens would be granted full Roman citizenship when they retired, which was a huge deal, because that status passed right on to their kids. There was even a whole hierarchy of comfort on the ship. The most senior respected rowers actually earned the right to sit on the top row, which gave them the most control of the oar and, crucially, the freshest air.
Beyond just social mobility, there was a brilliant, incredibly cold-blooded tactical reason that Rome avoided using slaves. You see, ancient naval warfare wasn't just about ramming ships into each other, it was all about boarding. If your ship is powered by 50 free citizen soldiers, the moment you ram an enemy vessel, those guys can just drop their oars, grab heavy hoplite armor, and swarm the enemy deck. But what if those 50 men were enslaved? Imagine arming a ship full of physically strong, totally disgruntled captives with heavy weapons. Yeah, that would have been a really fast track to a bloody mutiny. Now, just because they were free men certainly doesn't mean life was a breeze. Far from it. The Roman military ruled the waves through an unyielding, incredibly harsh tradition known as disciplinione. Basically, this was the Roman military ideal of categorical, absolute obedience. So no, it wasn't enforced by physical iron chains, but it was enforced by the constant threat of extreme, legally sanctioned punishment. It was a severe, deeply ingrained moral tradition that made absolutely sure there was total order in the total chaos of a naval battle. Now, what's really fascinating about this is how the archaeological record paints a surprisingly human picture. Look at the late antique Mediterranean ceramics recovered from shipwrecks. These are not the crude feeding troughs of prisoners, not at all. These are communal dining wares. They actually prove that Roman sailors operated as a tight-knit community. When they went ashore, they didn't just passively gather provisions. They cooked fresh meals together over open flames. They sat and ate together, forming the deep, trusting bonds you absolutely need to survive the unpredictable sea. And you know what else? These communities were often remarkably small. By examining these dining sets found on ancient Mediterranean shipwrecks, archaeologists have deduced the surprisingly intimate scale of these crews. Take the Drummond F wreck, for example. It was a 10-meter ship, and it had a crew of just 2 to 3 people. Even the larger Marzamimi II ship, which was hauling heavy marble, only required 8 to 12 sailors. So we're talking about small, collaborative teams. It's a world away from the massive, floating prisons of popular imagination. But listen, the nightmare of the galley slave definitely did happen. We just usually have the wrong era. The true, visceral horror emerged much later. Let's trace this descent into nightmare. Now, during the extreme desperation of the 3rd century BC Punic Wars, Scipio Africanus did actually conscript thousands of slaves, though their exact fate is kind of lost to history.
But it was really during the holy wars of the Middle Ages that the practice became fully industrialized. The Knights Hospitaller began chaining Muslim captives to their oars, and Ottoman and Barbary corsairs brutally repaid the favor by enslaving literally millions of European Christians. Just to put that in perspective, by the Battle of Lepanto in 1571, the victorious fleet freed an astonishing 12,000 Christian slaves from the benches of Turkish galleys alone. Section 10. A Hell on Earth, the True Galley Slaves. We are now going to leave the Roman era behind and step directly into the hull of a medieval Moorish or Barbary corsair warship. We're crossing the threshold into a true hell on Earth. I want you to imagine right now you have just been captured off the coast of Italy. You're dragged below deck. The sheer heat hits you first, and then the sudden, crushing realization of exactly where you are going to spend the rest of your short, agonizing life. The sensory assault below deck is completely beyond modern comprehension. One historical account describes the stench as an almost solid, invisible wall of fecal matter, urine, old sweat, and rotting meat. It's truly horrific. The noxious ammonia fumes in the air down there were so thick and so corrosive that new captives actually reported feeling as though their eyes were literally bleeding. You are forced into a cramped space, maybe a stone's throw long, packed right alongside 200 completely naked men. The air is incredibly dim, lit only by a murky gray twilight filtering down through the latticework deck right above your head. Beneath your bare feet, you're splashing in foul, swampy bilge water, and as you step, dozens of black, scurrying rats leap out of your path. You are forced down onto a wooden bench that is literally gelatinous with years of accumulated filth, and you are chained to a massive oar. And then the drums began. Right at the center of the ship sit the slave masters, pounding on heavy kettle drums. That beat entirely dictates the pace of human suffering. Boom, boom, ba-boom, boom. It's this constant throbbing sound that never, ever ceases. It echoes off the wooden hull, invading your mind until the psychological terror completely takes over, and that relentless drum beat literally becomes the rhythm of your own heart, just pulsing right there in your veins. And this brilliantly illustrates the schedule. It was a torturous mathematical rhythm designed to systematically strip away every ounce of their humanity. You rowed, pulling with absolutely every bit of strength you had for 4 hours straight. Then you collapsed right there on your oar to rest for 4 hours. Then you woke up and rowed for 4 hours again, and again, and again, forever. There were no weekends, there was no shore leave. This cycle just repeated endlessly until your body finally gave out and you died. By the end of your very first hour, your arms and your legs are just burning with sheer agony. Your palms are bloody, they're blistered, your skin is rubbed totally raw against that wooden bench. But you can't slow down, not even a little. If you drop out of sync by even a fraction of a second, the slave master's cutting leather whip cracks down, instantly splitting the skin on your back, your shoulders, or your belly. If you dare speak even a whispered word of complaint, the lash bites again. You suffer in absolute, terrified silence. So the crucial point here is that to the masters of these ships, you were no longer a human being. You were literally a biological engine. And engines require coolant. These ships had to carry vast oceans of fresh water. At the end of a long shift, rowers were handed buckets of water. But this wasn't out of compassion, folks. It was cold, hard logistics. Without water, the rowers died. And stopping everything to haul a dead, limp body out of the iron chains to find a replacement, that was just an irritating inconvenience to the slave masters. It was simply easier to keep you watered and keep whipping you. The true terror really peaked during a storm. Picture an autumn squall suddenly blowing in. Massive waves are crashing directly against the wooden hull, literally just inches from your ear. Torrents of freezing rain pour down through the grating above. The drums beat faster and faster. The slave masters scream in Arabic to row or die. You're pulling on this massive pine oar with muscles that are already screaming in agony. And the worst part? You know with absolute, chilling certainty that if this ship sinks, no one is coming down into the dark to unlock your chains. You will go straight to the bottom of the sea, still shackled to your bench. Under this kind of relentless labor, every single sense of time and identity just evaporates. Day and night blur into one continuous, hazy stretch of lighter or darker agony. You wallow in your own filth, catching these feverish little moments of sleep while slumped over the handle of your oar. And when food finally comes, it's nothing more than fuel. A few scraps of stale bread, a watery bean stew, maybe a hunk of gristly bone.
and you consume it ravenously in seconds, just to survive long enough to pull that oar one more time. For centuries, right, across the sparkling blue waters of the Mediterranean, this hidden horror quietly powered empires. It fueled massive holy wars, and it completely drove global trade. The men below deck were stripped of their names, their freedom, and their humanity, serving purely as invisible engines of flesh and bone until the cold, dark depths of the sea finally offered them a release. It leaves us with a deeply haunting question to consider today. As we look back at the grand sweep of human history, how much of it was actually propelled by this invisible nightmare?